I really didn't have intentions of recording what I was doing tonight, but the more that I do it and the better it smells, the more I think maybe somebody might be interested in doing it, because it is going to be really amazing. So far I am making cheese grits. I use a Crook's Corner recipe, which Crook's Corner is a famous restaurant in Chapel Hill or outside Chapel Hill. And they do a really good shrimp and grits recipe. And I found that their cheese grits part of that shrimp and grits is our family favorite. So I have taken the recipe and basically just gone ahead and made the cheese grits. And the recipe is super simple. It's 2 cups of water, 2 cups of water, 3/4 of a cup of half and half, a 14.5-ounce can of chicken broth, and a cup of grits. And I honestly think this recipe is so amazing that any grits would do. I happen to have some stone ground grits, which is Charleston's favorite stone ground grits, which comes in this little handy kitschy bag. It's really good. But truly, quick cooking grits that you can get in the grocery store, or any kind of coarse grits, depending on what you like, will work. So it's a cup of those. And the stone ground ones you have to rinse and then drain off the chaff and any other bits that float to the top before you use them. So I have put those liquids in the pot, brought it to a boil over medium to medium-high heat, stirred some so that the half and half wouldn't stick to the bottom. And there's also some salt in there. And then I put in there my cup of rinsed grits, whisked them in with a large whisk, and let them cook for about 10 minutes on a simmer. And I stirred them pretty regularly. At the end of 10 minutes, I checked to make sure they were soft enough. They were good to go. And I stirred in 3/4 of a cup of freshly shredded sharp white cheddar cheese, whatever kind you like. I would have gotten the pre-packaged if I had been in a rush, but just good cheddar cheese. And then a 1/4 cup of grated, it's the consistency of grounds, but they grated Parmesan cheese. So it's a cup of cheese total in there, along with 2 tablespoons of butter, about a 1/2 teaspoon of Tabasco, and a 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper. I happen to have white pepper from something else that I'd done, but if I had not have, I'd have put the black pepper in there and we'd have all loved it. So that's not a big deal. I'm letting it hang out on low in the back, and I'm keeping an eye on it to make sure that it's not cooking out of too much liquid. I also bought this is probably about 6 ham steaks that I got in the vacuum sealed package in the grocery store. Some places have it with the bacon and sausage. I think that's where I got it, at Wegmans, but you can get it at Harris Teeter, Food Line, anywhere. And the ham steaks were about that big. And all I did was cut them up into little cubes. You can actually get it cubed already. And the only reason I didn't was because I wanted to control how big they were. And the cubes that you can buy already done in the store are really little. I melted about, for this much ham, a couple tablespoons or less of butter. I really wasn't measuring it. Just enough to cover the bottom of this size of a pan. And I stirred them around on about medium heat until the butter melted. Put in the little ham steak cubes and just kept stirring them around until I got good caramel color on them. And some of them were a little crunchy around the edges. I crowded the pan too much because I was in a rush. Otherwise, it would have crunched around the edges a lot better. So if I were doing this for company, I would probably do it in 2 batches to make sure that they got a little crisp around the edges. They're going to function sort of like bacon bits. And I'm going to do, I've already got my 4 pieces of cut up bacon in here, and the bacon pieces are about 1 inch big. And I am going to just cook them around a little bit longer. You want them to start getting brown on either edge. And this is the same collard greens that I did the other night to serve with the chicken and waffles. We love them. My mom gave me the recipe. They love them. So I decided I would go ahead and use them in this dish because they are vinegary and also a little spicy. And you also add a little sugar to it, which is not a normal thing for my family. We usually just do the vinegar root or the spicy root, not the sugary root, but it's not really, they're not really sweet. And they don't take long to do at all. As a matter of fact, my family is in various and sundry other places, so I'm gonna have to keep some of this warm for them. But I have this feeling that that's not gonna be tragic. Okay, the bacon is just about done. You don't want it to get crisp. You want it to be sort of flimsy, but crisp around the very edges, brown around the very edges. To this, I'm gonna add some garlic. I can't think of much better than adding garlic to bacon, can you? And let me make sure I'm right here. It is 2 cloves of garlic. So I'm going to do half a teaspoon 2 times of this. I know I should be peeling it and chopping it up. I wanted to do it quick, so I didn't. And that smells really good. To that, I'm going to add salt, pepper, sugar, and hot sauce. But I'm going to let the garlic hang out there for just a second and get a little more fragrant. All right, I don't want to burn it while I'm busy measuring out this other stuff. So like I tell my kids when they're cooking, set it off the heat if you've got to do something else. Some things it's tragic if you do that. Most things it's totally fine if you put it off the heat. Okay. I'm going to add, double check myself here since I don't do this one all the time, a teaspoon of salt and half a teaspoon of pepper. So, a teaspoon of just table salt, and half a teaspoon, I'm just going to eyeball this using the same teaspoon. If it airs a little bit more on the peppery side, that's not going to break my heart. And it's got sugar and hot sauce in it. It's a 1/4 cup of sugar, which I keep a 1/4 cup in my sugar. So I'm just going to sprinkle it in the pan with the salt and pepper, and the bacon and the garlic. And hot sauce, it just says several dashes of hot sauce. After having done this before, I know that I like several dashes of hot sauce in it, so that's what I'm going to do. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to do 6 of those. And I'm just using Texas Pete, but you do you. Use your favorite hot sauce. Boy, this looks good. All right, so I got a good mishmash going here with the sugar and the salt and the pepper and the bacon and the garlic and the hot sauce, and it's all starting to smell super awesome. And to this, I'm going to add vinegar, which is more in my wheelhouse when it comes to collard greens. So it is a 1/4 cup of vinegar, and it's just apple cider vinegar. And you pour it in there. Maybe you'll pour a little bit back in the container because I got too much. Yeah, there we go. There you go. 1/4 cup of vinegar. And this I am actually going to get hot and cook it until it's reduced by about half. It doesn't take that long though. I've got it on 3 as far as heat goes. So it's not super low, but also not all that high. And every so often I'm checking out my grits to make sure that they're not sticking to the bottom. So I'm just gonna stir through them, double check. And the vinegar is very potent, so if you put your face right over it, you will get a face full. Okay. Now, the only reason that I do not have grits, collards, and ham going at the same time is because I don't have 3 big burners on my stove. So, what I did was I started with the ham in this thing, and I got it all brown and happy and caramel colored and crunchy, and then I dumped it in a smaller pan just to sort of put it in a resting place where I could heat it up really quick at the end. Sometimes you just have to make do, you have to figure it out. So, hey Chelsea, how are you? Yes, I have done it with shrimp. I have used the Crook's Corner recipe to do the shrimp and grits. It also has some mushrooms and other things in it that are super yummy. I just wasn't feeling shrimp and grits tonight. But yes, absolutely, do it with the shrimp. When I post the recipe that I'm using for the cheese grits, it comes with the shrimp and the shrimp part of it. So just do the whole thing because that's the way I do shrimp and grits. That's the recipe that I use. And it is amazing. Actually, last night I was looking at recipes and I started jonesing for a shrimp po' boy. And I thought, man, this pandemic quarantine is killing my waistline. I need to ease up on the bread, but boy, wouldn't a po' boy be good right now. So I decided that I could probably adapt it and do a shrimp po' boy bowl. And that's in the works because I want a po' boy. So there you have it. I decided I was not going to bread the shrimp. I'm going to brown some good breadcrumbs and some butter, a little bit of butter, and use that on the top as sort of a crunchy breading that's not breading the shrimp. We'll just see what comes of it, but I've got some ideas floating around my head. Okay, this is now looking like a really, it's reduced by about half, and it's really sort of like a glaze now on the bottom of this. Now, the fun part. Normally, I would have gotten big collard greens and submerged them in water in the sink and sort of let them hang out a little bit and gotten all the sand or the debris or anything else off them because they are a farm product, and then cut the big stem out of the middle. They didn't have any of those at the store. They are, however, now doing bags of pre-cut and washed collard greens. Wegmans does it. I've seen it at Harris Teeter. I can't imagine that Kroger, Food Lion, other grocery store chains wouldn't do the same thing. They look like this. They're super happy. The only problem with these, and it's really not a problem until it is a problem. The only problem, hang on, is that they just cut all of it up and they don't take out the stems. Now, I have had them where the stems, even big ones, are no big deal. They are really yummy and they get tender when you cook them and it's no big deal. And this is going to look like a super hot mess, but this will end up working out. Now, this recipe calls for 2 pounds. You do what you got to do with the stuff that you have, right? I don't have a humongous skillet. So what I'm going to do is wait till this first part of it melts down a little bit, and then I'm going to put the other bag in, and it's probably going to be my evening entertainment trying to figure this out. And if that's not sad, I don't know what is, but I'm going to get collards at the end, so it's all good. I was telling you about the stems, and I just picked out 2 big ones. So that's a big stem. That's a big stem. The price that you pay for the ease of use and the fact that they have already washed them and cut them for you is that you're going to have to pull out some big stems if you find that they're not getting as tender as you want to. This is not fatal. It doesn't take very long to pull out the biggest ones when it's all done, because once you get these things cooked down, it's going to be really easy to identify which stems you're not going to want to keep. So, you know, if there's a quick way to do it, I will have come up with it. I don't know if this is when lazy might be working for me. I don't know. All right. You're going to cook these down until they are not bright green and they're wilted. To this first part, and I was waiting for it to wilt down a little bit, I'm going to add a cup of chicken broth. I forgot to get 2 cans of chicken broth, so I'm going to use better than bouillon and a cup of hot water and make it work. So while I'm waiting for that to get hot, I'm going to put the water in first. But I'm going to get a cup of water, add a teaspoon of the better than bouillon, and whisk it all around, and magically I will have chicken broth to put in my collard greens, which will help this wilt, down more. Okay, and I don't know if you guys use better than bouillon. It's this stuff, and it's sort of like a paste. You get it in the grocery store with, it's in the same aisle as the broths that are in cans that are liquid, and it's not granulated and dried like bouillon cubes, but I might just be able to stir this in. But the flavor is amazing. They've got other options other than just chicken and beef. They've got ham, they've got, I want to say they have a vegetable one, but I can't remember right this second. All right, I'm going to put in this cup of chicken broth, and you can use water, but I think the chicken broth makes it taste richer, and if I'm going to go through all this to do it, I want it to taste as good as it can taste. So, earlier it was super entertaining. I had a piece of ham. Oh, I should tell you, when you're cooking your ham steaks, the ham steaks are awesome, but they do have, when they get to going in the butter, they can pop like crazy. So be careful that they don't pop up on you. And I had one piece of it pop right out of the pan because I was trying to get it hot enough to really get the bottom of it really brown and crisp. So it popped right out of the pan. And when I moved the pan to try to get it off the heat, I knocked one of my plates off the wall. So it was super fun here for a second. Okay, these are wilting down now. I know it doesn't look like it's super wilted down, but they're wilting down. So I'm going to start adding the other bag to it. Last time, if you saw me make it, I just did a combo of some fresh ones that I had, and that I had cut the stem out of and done all the things to it myself. And those were amazing. We ate them like gangbusters. Now clearly, if you have a bigger pan that you want to do this in, by all means make it easy on yourself. Use a bigger pan. I just felt like I needed a challenge tonight. So this is how I'm challenging myself. Let that cook down some. The idea behind this, though, is to end up with sort of a shrimp and grits-esque thing, but I wanted to have greens as a part of it. Trying to eat more vegetables. And these are so good for you, and my family and I love them. So that's sort of how I'm dealing with it, is by adding greens to my cheese grits. I think that ups the nutrition some. And then the ham's gonna go on top. When I finally work all these collard greens in here, which may take me a while, I am going to cook them until they are no longer the bright green that they turn when they start getting heat to them. And after that, I'll cook them a little more until they get even more wilted. They probably will end up filling this pan, but not overfilling it like I'm trying to make it do right now. And I will add some more vinegar to it. I think last time I didn't add as much as a quarter cup again, but it was probably an eighth of a cup. And I will add a couple more dashes of hot sauce, most likely. I want this to be big flavor because even though the cheese grits have a lot of good big flavor going on, there's sort of that creamy underlying thing. I want the collard greens to really give me the zip and zing, and the ham on top to be like that comforting, yummy, fatty goodness that you chew in the last minute. And I may actually even provide Texas Pete for people to do dashes on at the very top, at the very end. But these will not take all that much longer. They're only taking this long because I didn't have a big enough pan to do all of it at the same time as easily. I probably should have gotten out my huge wok. I just didn't want to mess with it. So that's it. Any questions that you have, please feel free to ask, and I will post the recipes and the picture of the finished item, and stay tuned for the shrimp po' boy bowl at some point in the near future, if that sounds good to you. That's sounding like summer to me. Okay, thanks.